Hi, this is Lydia Fry, and I'll be talking about naturalistic or discrete. What are the best ways to teach imitation? So, there are 5 components in teaching imitation. First, any physical movement that may function as a model for imitation. Imitative must Imitative behavior must immediately follow the presentation of the model. The model and the behavior must have formal similarity, and the model must be a controlling variable for the imitative behavior. So, why is imitation important? Well, imitative ability has been associated with the presence of other important skills, as well as its use in instructional practice, such as at school, and allows children to access observational learning opportunities. So, what is naturalistic and discrete trial training? So, naturalistic training is the interaction between an adult and a single child, which arises naturally in an unstructured situation, such as free play, and which is used by an adult to transmit information or give the child practice in developing a skill. Discrete trial training, or DTT, includes salient discriminative stimuli, structured prompting schedules, and tight stimulus control that are thought to enhance instruction for learners with autism. So, some research. So, Ledford and Worley in 2011 performed a meta-analysis that looked at 15 studies. They determined that all of these articles could be placed into 4 categories of methods: naturalistic via classroom and play-based, and then discrete trial training with peers and adults. So, all 4 types of methods had percentages of success. However, as you can see, the classroom-based tend to have a lower percentage, as well as with the discrete trial with adults. Let's take a look at 4 of the studies that they presented in this meta-analysis that goes through each of the 4 types of methods. So, naturalistic via the classroom. Garfinkel and Schwartz in 2002 wanted to evaluate the effects of peer imitation, designed to increase peer imitation in an integrated preschool classroom. There were 4 boys in preschool, all of which have been diagnosed with varying severity of ASD. The children were placed in small groups with 4 to 5 other children, and each table there were materials, and someone was chosen or self-selected as a leader, and they chose what to do with those materials, and the children that weren't the leader were supposed to imitate the leader in doing what they were doing with the materials. The teachers who provided prompts to the participants as well as other children to make sure that they were staying on task and imitating the leader. And then when imitation occurred, praise was given. And when all the children were in synchronized imitation, the role of the leader was changed. Another child was able to be that leader. The results were that participants required different levels of prompting, whether it was just verbal or some physical guidance was needed, but all exhibited increases in peer imitation. So, naturalistic play-based. Ingersoll, Lewis, and Croman in 2007 wanted to assess whether immediate gesture imitation could be successfully taught using reciprocal imitation training, and whether increase in imitation would lead to a spontaneous use of descriptive gestures. The participants were 5 boys diagnosed with ASD, ranging in ages from 3 to 4. The intervention used was adapted from techniques shown to be successful for teaching object imitation, and this included contingent imitation, linguistic mapping, following the child's lead, physical prompting, and contingent reinforcement. During the intervention, all participants had increases in imitative behavior. However, only 3 of the participants showed any type of generalization. Now, onto the discrete trial studies. This one is via the peer, Peck, Apollini, Cook, and Raver in 1978. Wanted to assess the generality of social behavior achieved through peer imitation training. Participants were 3 children diagnosed with Down syndrome, ranging in ages from 3 to 5. They were looking at a couple things: peer imitation and social interaction. Social interaction included vocalizing, social gesturing, and sharing. During intervention, teacher prompted participants to imitate the peer, and if imitation occurred, praise was provided. Again, all participants experienced an increase in imitation skills. Next, on to discrete trial via adult. Gazdag, and Warren in 2002 wanted to investigate the effects of adult contingent vocal imitation of children's vocalization on the development of their own vocal imitation skills. Participants were 3 children between the ages of 2 and 3 that attended a community-based early intervention program. The procedure was that the target behavior was the child's vocal imitation of the adult vocal imitations of the child, and imitations that occurred were provided reinforcement. This was a little confusing to read because the child would make a vocalization and then the adult would repeat and possibly add on to that vocalization and then require the child to repeat the adult's imitation of the child. So say the child said ba, the adult might say ba ba, and then require the child to now say ba ba. All participants had an increase in elicited vocal imitations, but there was no evidence of generalization with other adults or settings. So now on to the discussion. So there is evidence in support of both DTT and naturalistic methods. However, a lot of researchers lean towards the naturalistic methods over the DTT. Here are differences between naturalistic and discrete trial training that may be the reason behind these differences in effectiveness. So naturalistic training, it's in the natural environment, whereas discrete trial training is in contrived situations. Naturalistic training, there's multiple stimuli. You're in the natural environment. A lot of things are going on. There's a lot of talking. There's a lot of things to look at. Whereas in discrete trial training, it's contrived situations. So researchers are able to reduce all distractions. As well as in the naturalistic training, it's diversified models, and that kind of goes into with the multiple stimuli. There's a lot to look at. There's a lot to imitate. So the child may not know what they're supposed to be imitating because there's so much going on. And there's also different people to imitate and behaviors to imitate. Are they supposed to imitate the talking that they're hearing or a behavior that they're hearing? Are they supposed to be imitating the other children that they see or the adults? Whereas in discrete trial training, it's very specified types and numbers of models. Raise your hand, says the adult who's raising their hand. The child knows that they are supposed to be looking at that adult and doing what the adult is doing. Like I said, a lot of researchers lean towards that naturalistic method. So here are some suggestions in order to have the best methods of teaching imitation as possible. Ensure that children have the prerequisite skills to attend to models. Again, naturalistic settings have a lot of things going on, so making sure that a child is able to even understand who or what they're supposed to imitate is very important. Use specific prompting strategies. That's just making sure that the child knows what you mean when you're prompting them. Use diversified models. This is really for generalization. And then use reinforcing materials. The more reinforcing the materials, the more likely that behavior is going to occur. That's all that I have. And references. Thanks. Bye.